Welcome to the Foundation Series, your deep dive into startup compensation with industry leaders from across the startup world. Join me, Matt McFarlane, a people operations leader turned compensation specialist, as we uncover the strategies and practices driving success in tech startups around the world. Hear insights from heads of people, founders, and experts as we explore how to build robust compensation frameworks that not only fuel growth and retention, but do so in the dynamic startup environment that we all know and love. Let's get into it. In today's episode, I'm unpacking a hot topic with Melissa Theiss, personal bonuses at startups. My take is that they're often more trouble than they're worth, too rigid, too disconnected from the day-to-day, and often misunderstood. Melissa agrees, and we go deep on how to rethink incentives altogether. We talk about turning bonuses from an expectation into a true motivator and how to design a program that drives performance without creating resentment when payouts aren't guaranteed. Let's get into it. All right, welcome to the Foundation Series. Melissa Theiss, I've been so excited to have this conversation with you. I think I've certainly been fangirling over your content on LinkedIn for a long time. I think you have such a really interesting commercial lens to a lot of the different things that you talk about under the sort of head of HR within a startup remit. So really excited to welcome you to the Foundation Series. I'd love it if you'd spend a quick minute introducing yourself for those who maybe aren't as familiar with you as I am, and then we can dive into our exciting episode.
Sure. So Melissa Theiss, I'm a 4-time head of business and people operations, currently the head of people operations at Kit, the email-first operating system for creators who mean business. I'm also the founder and principal of Fledge, an HR consulting firm that helps people leaders think like business leaders. So very appropriate for how you view my content on LinkedIn. Good to hear.
Absolutely. And amazing to have you here. Melissa, I'm really keen to dive into a topic that I think could be really polarizing for startups, which is around bonuses. How and when to do them, are they even right? Are they ever right? Let's start with my opinion personally on bonuses at startups has tended to be that they're kind of this unnecessary process. So things are often too chaotic to ever have one set of unchanging goals, and managers are never really close enough to the day-to-day to be able to apply them if you were to have them dealt out in a more discretionary manner. I'd love to start with what's your take on bonuses? What do you tend to see as some of the consistencies in terms of how they're applied?
I agree. Especially for companies with fewer than 100 people, I'm not the biggest fan of bonuses, especially individual bonuses. I have more leeway and, find value in some collective bonuses. I feel similarly actually about commissions as well. I think commissions, it depends a little bit more on the business model, but I find oftentimes for bonuses and commissions, depending on the business model, you just don't have the underlying data to project what performance is necessary to attain certain performance payout tiers to actually even set bonuses that are going to be appropriately a stretch, but not demoralizing. And it just gets into something that's very difficult. And the documentation practices, especially at startups, tend to be poor. And so people don't understand how they're calculated. And if people don't understand how they're calculated, the bonus isn't serving as an effective behavioral incentive. You created a bonus instead of just baking it into base salary because you wanted to drive certain specific behaviors. But if people don't understand how and why the bonus works, then you're not driving those behaviors, in which case you've added complexity for little to no gain.
Yeah, I completely agree. And this is a nice segue into the next section around how do we make sure that they actually are an incentive and not an expectation? I know I've seen my fair share of companies where they've felt pressured, I guess, into just delivering them consistently. And it's ultimately just become a completely, essentially a part of their total comp. It's not at risk in any way. How can you sort of ensure that it never shifts into this expectation that it does remain an incentive, do you think? What are some tips or tricks that you'd recommend?
Yeah, I'll per se, I've also seen the opposite. I've seen bonuses that basically paid out at such a low rate that people discounted them entirely or scorned them. Both sides of the spectrum happen. I think the Goldilocks effect of where you get a bonus that pays out 70% of the time or 70% of people is rarer than you would hope it is. I think that you have to be clear about what the bonus is. So what behavior you're actually trying to drive with the bonus. like how the bonus and attainment of the bonus are actually calculated. Give people tools to create their own path to progress, to be able to model out like what behaviors they can drive in their own portfolio that will change their ability to attain their bonus, such that they can actually like control and calibrate and then be adequately like motivated by it. And then I do also, in terms of people not assuming that it's guaranteed, like I think you can also do some small, almost kitschy things. Like when I used to lead a customer success team, we had these semi-annual bonuses, but our revenue was seasonal. So the revenue was higher in the second half of the year. And so for the second half of the year, at the start of the fourth quarter, first day, myself and my director, we would put out these 3 big presents, like physical presents. We still worked in the office then. They were 3 big actual physical presents that they were stacked for our 3 different goals. One was just a CSAT goal, but the other 2 were the 2 different components that our team bonus was tied to. And the present was there, and everyone got to unbox the present together with individual presents inside it as soon as we hit each of those goals. And like what the goal was and our progress to it was marked there. And every time we closed a deal, like people would go up and they'd mark, mark the progress. It was just this constant reminder that it was a present. It was unexpected. It was people's collective effort. You saw different people going up and marking it that was going to get us there or not get us there. And when we got there and we unboxed it, it was this collective experience of people reading the notes. What most people didn't know is those boxes were empty until like the 2 days before my director and I realized we were going to hit it. And we had already bought the gifts. But like we at least took them in back and we like sliced them open. We wrote handwritten notes to every single person. We like repackaged them and we like hid them in the night back there, but people like
Proper Santa Claus.
So we like put objects in them, but it like you have to create this idea that it is a present, and you don't have to do it with physical objects like that. But that worked well. And I'm sure there are other templates that would work well too.
I'm curious on your thoughts on, because you're right, there is a risk that if a bonus doesn't pay out often enough, especially if we're talking about an individual bonus, that people start to go, okay, well, maybe I'm not going to hit it. Do you think there's any merit to almost like from a pay transparency perspective, but like talking about as a company, if others have hit their bonuses, talking about like, hey, 30 or 40% of the team who are bonused have hit this thing, and kind of giving people a way to see, actually, this is happening elsewhere in the business. It's not just me. This is attainable. It's just that I haven't attained. Like, do you think that works to the detriment or to the benefit of companies in that sense?
Yeah. So I think that, those TikToks where HR professionals will say, I would never do this, having worked in HR. If I were in a sales role, I would never sign a sales offer letter without a sales incentive compensation plan attached and written for me. And I would never sign an offer without knowing what the average quota attainment of my team was. Ever. Ever. Because I have issued offers to salespeople who didn't ask when the average quota attainment on the team was 40%.
Yeah. That's a great call.
And don't think we weren't talking about it. We were. And I described the on-target earnings and how it worked and all of that. But they didn't ask. And we were told not to disclose, And if we had been asked directly, I would have been able to get permission and I would have disclosed. And people figured it out in the first week because it was on their dashboard, their Salesforce dashboard, their leaderboard, their rank order. And then when you redo your math, if you're on a 50-50 split of base variable and you expect 50% of your on-target earnings to come in through commissions, and then you realize that the average attainment rate is 40%, that's a systemic issue. That's a territory allocation issue. That's a quota allocation issue. That's a commission accelerator issue. That's not something that an individual salesperson is likely to be able to overcome. So yes, I don't think the next wave of pay transparency will be including average bonus or quota attainment on job descriptions. I think it should be. And I don't think that any individual who is signing a bonus or commission plan should do so without knowing the average attainment rate.
Yeah, I think that's such a great call. It's really a bit of a canary in the coal mine, isn't it, as well, for businesses to go, okay, if we're never paying this thing out, is it actually like what's broken about it? Are we being unreasonable in our expectations, or is something broken from an enablement perspective? Like, where do we need to look to understand how we can remedy this? But I agree. I think the more we can, be upfront with people around, whether or not this is actually being landed on is going to have a really profound impact on people's ability to see it and be incentivized by it as well. Last question for me. How do we design a bonus program with real accountability without demotivating people when the payout isn't guaranteed or uniform? I kind of touched on this a little bit, but any other thoughts that you'd want to add?
I think that one of the other things is I think that bonus plans work best when the individual is personally incentivized, but they're also incentivized for some greater purpose. That's why I do personally like collective bonuses. So whether it's team performance or company performance and individual commissions or equity. But I also think it's better when bonuses can be tied to some impact to the customer, because most professionals do feel accountable to the customer because the customer is a person, and like you're going to your job, and most jobs are still service jobs in some way, whether it is like service in a restaurant. I was a hostess for years, whether it's providing a software product and giving resolution to a ticket or something like that. It doesn't have to be like a CSAT KPI or anything like that. But if you can in some way make your bonus tied to the success of your customer or greater purpose beyond profit, I do think that makes people feel more motivated, or a subset of people that are not motivated by the individual bonus alone feel motivated. So the current company that I work at, Kit, one of the things that we do is profit sharing. So one of the things that we firmly believe and say all the time is creator success is our success. So we're an independent, profitable business. We make software for independent creators like authors, bloggers, podcasters, and we distribute a portion of the profits back to our team members every year. And we know that when our creators grow their business, then we will grow our business. And so it's just this really harmonious tie-in that every time we can make a creator successful, a piece of that is coming back to us. So it's both the purpose and the profit. And it makes people feel like they're doing something that, you're like getting excited. We open profit sharing checks together and people will share what they're spending it on, like they're paying down a mortgage, or, they're going to get their kid a trip to Disney World, or this, that, or the other. And people don't have to share, but people can choose to if they want to. And it's this really exciting moment. But then people also share stories and get love about like the customer that they impacted. And those two things are intertwined. One cannot be achieved without the other. And I think that type of bonus is more impactful.
Yeah, that's so good. It's like identifying the sort of the value chain, the link between what we're doing in aid of our customers and how they can come back to benefit the business from a revenue and a profit perspective. Love it. So good. So practical. Thank you so much for this. This has been really, really insightful. I appreciate all of the tips. And yeah, this has been a really great conversation. That's a wrap on our conversation about bonuses. And if you're leading people or finance at a startup, I hope this episode gave you a reality check and a playbook. Incentives can work, but only with the right conditions. Clear expectations, well-modeled data, and a culture that sees them as rewards, not entitlements. Whether you're designing commissions, spot bonuses, or annual plans, clarity and consistency are key. If you got value from this chat, hit subscribe, share it with your team, and I'll see you next time on the Foundation Series. Thanks for joining us on another edition of the Foundation Series. Make sure to head over to our website to subscribe to the Foundation Series for monthly editions featuring future interviews on startup compensation. In each edition, we'll explore the different strategies, trends, and challenges faced by startups around the world. If you have a burning topic you'd like me to cover or a standout guest that you want to hear from, drop me an email so I can dive deeper into the compensation topics that matter most to you. Join me next time as we continue to uncover the strategies and practices driving success in global tech startups around the world. Thanks for listening.